It means the Ministry's interfering at Hogwarts.
You're not going mad. You're just as sane as I am.
I must not tell lies.
You seem to be laboring under the delusion that I'm going to, what was the phrase? Come quietly.
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hogwarts, a podcast. We are covering Chapter 19, The Lion and the Serpent. If there's a Gryffindor versus Slytherin matchup, we must have Jenn on the podcast.
Hey guys.
So there's some Quidditch going on here. There's some DA going on here. There's some ramifications from said Quidditch match, which I'm very happy that we have Jenn on, because not only does she give the Quidditch breakdowns, we get some Slytherin talk, which I'm excited for, because just so very rarely do we ever get like some real Slytherin breakdowns.
This is a wonderful chapter for that.
Yes, it is. So we start off the chapter with one of my favorite things, which is a massive time jump. That, again, I will point out, this could have been Mandy Brocklehurst's moment in like late September, early October, and we just don't get it. We also miss some crucial DA lessons, it seems like. We get some Harry feeling some pride in what he's doing with these DA lessons. That rebellious streak in him he finds himself relishing it almost.
He says it gets him through the day.
Yeah, which I get. Everybody needs a goal to get them through the day. This is a particularly rebellious goal that's dangerous on a lot of different levels, but hey, whatever works. We find out that Neville has disarmed Hermione.
Good job, Neville.
Which, Hermione's not teaching this class, so presumably she was actually paying attention, which makes it all the more impressive, because Neville disarmed Harry when he wasn't exactly paying attention, but Neville's clearly gotten better, so a little hint there. We get a note that Colin Creevey has mastered the impediment jinx after 3 meetings, so obviously we've missed roughly 3 meetings. And we also get that Parvati has started producing great reductor curses, which has leveled a table in the room of requirement. So a lot going on with the DA lessons.
Do you think, I had a question when I was reading this. I'm curious to get your take on this.
Yeah.
Do you think that Harry is that good of a teacher, or do you think that the students are just maybe underestimated a little bit?
Harry's not perfect. He's not a Dumbledore, he's not a McGonagall, he's not a Lupin even. He's not getting the best grades, he's not, doing the best. But maybe you're a better teacher for it. When you're really good at something naturally, it's hard to explain how to do it.
Yes.
But when you have to work to be good at something, you're better at explaining how you go from level 1 to level 10.
Makes sense.
There was some other stuff going on with the DA. With Quidditch practices being scheduled and rescheduled, because now we're getting into late fall, early winter. Probably not the easiest weather-wise. So trying to figure out times for that is challenging. Thus, trying to find times for the DA practice is challenging. So Hermione's answer was devising a fake galleon that they use for communication. And she uses the numbers that are usually the serial numbers, indicating which goblin forged the galleon, which just makes me wonder, how many witches and wizards really look at the serial numbers and put it together that, like, oh, that's indicating the goblin that thus made this galleon? Probably very few, if any, know that.
I feel like that's one of those things that they probably teach you and then you forget.
I mean, how often do we look at serial numbers on
dollars?
Yeah. Never.
Like, I know that it's there, but I'll forget that it's there.
Right. And now she's using that information to figure out the date and time of future practices.
It's a completely brilliant move, because it's taking something that's just so utterly mundane that people take for granted and then using it in your favor. I was a little bit surprised that when they were describing this, that there wasn't some exchange with Ron, where Ron was like, how did you know what those numbers were? Because I feel like Ron wouldn't.
No,
And that's not because he doesn't have galleons. That's just because he's a wizard.
There was that
There
conversation.
was that conversation, just to be clear. I am not insinuating that. Ron is not always the most in tune with the things that are going on.
I just love that it's a muggle board that's like knows the in-depth analysis of wizarding money and how that works.
It's Hermione. You can't expect any less.
Why would you choose to read up on the history of serial numbers on galleons and what that means?
But all she does is read. Probably wanted to know more about Gringotts, and there's probably something in that book that talked about it, and it was this one-off sentence that she just happened to remember.
Maybe.
Like...
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you her reading a book on Gringotts and that being just a fun fact in there. And that's how she picked it up. I'll give you that.
That's my theory.
That makes much more, like,
That's
I can't see her reading, like, an economics book, a wizarding economics book.
Not yet. Give it a couple of years.
Fair enough. There is a lot of interesting magic that goes into this. So when Harry decides to change the time or date on the coin will grow warm in everybody's pocket, knowing that something's changed, which, genius. She also put on a charm that once Harry changes something on his, they all change, which seems like, oh yeah, duh. But the idea of having to put an extra charm on it to make it do that is genius. And then so genius, in fact, that it actually impresses Terry Boot, who goes, oh my gosh, that's like a Newt level charm that you just put on this thing. That's really impressive. And she's like, oh yeah, whatever. And then he's like, no. Seriously, that's impressive. Why weren't you in Ravenclaw? You're brilliant. And then she has this note that you really picked up on.
Yeah, I thought it was a wonderful little example of, so she acknowledges that the Sorting Hat did have serious consideration for putting her into Ravenclaw, and then immediately follows it up by saying, okay, so are we good with all the coins then? And I thought it was such a neat transition, because it's kind of in that entire thought process, in those two sentences, she tells you she could have been a Ravenclaw, and then she immediately demonstrates why she's in Gryffindor. She immediately reverts into the leader mode of, okay, we're doing this, okay, she's gonna keep driving this forward, she's gonna, push people, and I feel like Gryffindor and leadership are very tied to one another in this, and I feel like that was such a great setup of like, I could have been in Ravenclaw. Okay, now I'm gonna literally show you why I'm in Gryffindor.
How many students do you think the Sorting Hat wavered on and waffled between?
That's a really good question, because it certainly seems common.
Or at least maybe not waffled, like it waffled on Hermione, it waffled on Harry of like, oh, what do I do here? This is kind of close. And I get that it did not waffle on Draco and Ron, and it was like very quick to put them into houses. But like Hannah Abbott, like well, I guess she could be in Gryffindor, but I'm gonna put her in Hufflepuff, and then like, boom.
That's a good question, and I saw something, I can't remember where I read this, but I think it was probably on the Harry Potter subreddit, but I think someone had a theory that pie chart is a misnomer, but if you think of it as like four pieces where they bleed into each other. So it's like Gryffindor is next to Slytherin, is next to Ravenclaw, and then Hufflepuff is between Gryffindor and Ravenclaw. And that it was like the qualities that they describe, or that the qualities that tend to be exemplified in a lot of people, tend to border on those. So like if you're a Gryffindor, you either have some qualities of Hufflepuff, or you tend
so it's
more
not like
towards
a hard
Slytherin.
line.
So it's not, it's
a
more like
blurred
it's
line.
like a gradient between all the houses. And I just thought that was, I don't have like, a lot of examples off the top of my head of that, but I thought that was a really interesting way to like conceptualize it.
Before we move on and get into some more Hogwarts house talk, which we have a lot more to discuss there, I do want to point out that Hermione states, well, Harry first states, hey, that kind of reminds me of the dark marks that Voldy uses. And Hermione's like, yeah, that's where I got it from. Like, just very flat out, like, oh yeah, it's exactly where I got it from.
Doesn't try to hide it.
It's an interesting idea.
I have two questions that don't matter at all.
Okay.
I wonder how hot the coins get, and I wonder how you stop the coins. For like, if it heats up and you've noticed that the date has changed, how do you Like, is it picking it up that turns it off, or is it just gonna like burn a hole in my pocket if I leave it alone? Like, what's the...
Do you have to like visually like stare at it and
Right.
it like recognizes like, oh, you have now seen the numbers, and then it like shuts off?
Right.
Or do you have to like pressure it? I don't. Yeah, that's a good question. How hot it gets? I'm assuming it's just like, I imagine
It's not gonna burn
like a
them,
hand
but-
warmer,
Okay.
like where you just feel like a nice warmth.
Could I put it on my back and use it like a hot stone?
Now, okay, I will say this. Hermione very much seems like the type of person that if you ignore it, it will continue to get hotter and hotter and hotter the closer it gets to the actual time that you're missing.
I realize it's a silly question, but like, I could see Hermione.
I
doing
could
that.
see very much Hermione doing that.
Like, don't leave it alone in your school bag or your parchment is going to catch on fire.
I think that's how some spells work just in general of
Like, howlers get worse
Exactly.
until
Exactly.
either you open it or it explodes.
Yeah. Perfect example.
Like-
Yep. I could see her doing something like that. It would have to be, and it would have to be subtle. It can't be like steaming, like a teapot,
Right, 'cause
Because that would be noticeable.
That would be too obvious.
Unless you just get some kid like last class before the DA meeting, and he still hasn't checked this thing, and you just get a kid randomly screaming because it now burned his leg or something like that. But
Galleon-sized burn.
with all the house talk that we've already had, we're just gonna kind of double and triple down on that right now. So we get the big Gryffindor-Slytherin Quidditch matchup.
Woo.
And yes, I am not representing Gryffindor, but Jenn will represent Slytherin in this conversation.
Yay.
So the intensity and the importance of the matchup is made very clear up front. Professor McGonagall decides, you know what? You guys are good. You guys have enough on your plate right now. I won't give you homework this week. And everybody's like, you got to be kidding. This is big. If she's not giving homework, this is a big deal.
Yes.
And then she's not even like, I wouldn't even say them subtle hints. She's just like, I've gotten really used to the cup in my office.
I love that she just comes out and says it. There leaves no doubt in anyone's mind.
Nope.
Although, to be fair, I feel like when I had teachers in high school who were notorious for giving lots of homework, and then they didn't give homework, everyone was suspicious. So, I get it.
Oh, I totally get it too.
I have one quick comment on McGonagall before we jump
Yeah.
to the other side. I find it funny that they're like, oh wow, she really does care about Quidditch. As if in the first book she didn't just drag Harry, interrupt a class,
Yep.
pull Wood out of that class, and then instead of disciplining Harry, go, I found you a secret. Like, clearly she's in it. She's in it to win it.
100% agree. It should be fairly obvious by now that
Yes.
McGonagall's a massive Quidditch supporter.
Yes.
And if there was any confusion on whether teachers or head of houses have betting favorites, jump to the other side.
Yep.
And we get Snape, who's a little bit more, I think I put in my notes, maliciously biased. He chooses a less diplomatic tactic. He selectively ignores the fact that Spinette, one of the Gryffindor Quidditch players, was cursed by the Slytherin keeper, Miles Bletchley. There's a name for you, Miles Bletchley. And apparently there were, how many witnesses? 14 witnesses, something like that?
Yeah.
That saw him curse her with an eyebrow growing spell.
Yes.
Impressive. But
That's
okay.
a new one.
It is a new one.
Why would that spell ever be helpful?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. This is the difference between like the Harry Potter books and like the Fantastic Beasts movies later, where you get, this is a very childish spell.
Yes.
Like, when as an adult would you ever feel the need to use this spell? Like, are you gonna prank your coworker with this? Like, what are you gonna do?
It serves no actual purpose.
No, none at all. But like, and then the Fantastic Beasts, you see more adult magic that's more consequential. But
Okay. I guess it would be good with disguises, but you'd also have to be able to stop it fairly quickly.
well, then you need to consult Fred and George, who
Fair.
have clearly probably done experimentation on this and have solved that.
That's fair.
You get Ron showing some signs of life as a keeper, heading up to the match. It's just, he gets this flustered feeling around crowds, which I get.
so relatable.
It's definitely relatable, and the easiest thing I could bring up is when I'm golfing and I'm on my own. I'm just me alone and I have no one around me. I feel like I can breathe, take my time, center everything up, get my form right, get my head right, and I can just hit the ball well. And then you have like 2 carts pull up behind me as I'm on a tee box, and then I suddenly like shank one to the right. And why? It's just because they're there. They showed up, and I'm like, oh God.
I never did team sports because I couldn't handle the pressure of it. And I also banned my parents from coming to watch me play tennis when I was on the tennis team in high school.
Wow. I was just thinking, I'm actually going to contradict myself in a weird way.
Yeah.
When we get into this match.
Okay.
Once we get into the details of this match, I'm going to contradict myself. Okay. But we'll get there.
I have one quick note on Ron showing signs of life as the keeper. And they describe him as doing a really great save where he was hanging off of a broom and he kicked the quaffle so clear that it went through the center hoop on the other side.
Which would be pretty epic.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
And Fred and George, as the comic relief as they always are, were so impressed with this that they go as far as saying that they seriously are considering admitting that he's family.
Keywords, seriously.
And
Considering, yes.
Still not there yet.
Nope. Do that in the match against Slytherin, then we'll finally admit that you're...
Which, in and of itself, is a wonderful line, but is also fantastic because all of the Weasleys look so alike.
Yeah, I mean... It's kind of hard to mistake that family resemblance, but...
I don't think they're getting away from it.
No. But yeah, it's good to see Ron showing some signs that he is good at this. Or can be good at this, maybe, is the more accurate way to say that. However, he's not good at smack talk, because in the week leading up to this match, he gets it from all angles from Slytherin. Yeah. I think Pansy Parkinson's the one giving him a lot of... Or no, she's giving Harry some smack talk.
Yes.
And Harry comes back at her with like, yeah, well, I'd be more concerned if Warrington was aiming for the guy beside me because his aim is so terrible.
It's a great comeback.
It's a great comeback.
It's devastating. She's devastating.
He's endured it he's endured it his whole life because he's heard it from Dudley.
Yeah.
So... Not that Ron hasn't heard it from, again, the twins.
Yeah.
But Harry's heard it his entire life. And for the first 4 years at school, my goodness, the Triwizard Tournament was brutal. Yeah. So he's been there, done that.
Yeah.
And Ron, I don't think, has ever had this level of attention on him before. I think that's the real issue. He could put up with it with the twins.
Yeah.
And he's not afraid to bite back at the twins. But the school as a whole their entire focus is now shifted onto, you're the keeper of the Quidditch team for Gryffindor.
Yeah.
So all eyes are on you, and he's kind of wavering a bit in all the pressure.
He's definitely letting the pressure get to him, which again, super relatable.
It is super relatable. And this is his first big game.
I think it might be his first, organized game, too.
Also fair. That's probably true.
It's a lot.
Granted, the Weasley family is almost big enough to have their own organized Quidditch game. But yes, you're correct. However, all of that flustered feelings kind of ebbs away for a bit, at least, when Hermione actually gives him a good luck kiss on the cheek.
Aww.
And he's like, oh, and just stars and glazed over. He's like, okay, I'll forget all of that stress for 5 minutes until I get to the crowds. But that was an interesting moment.
Also, I love before they leave for the pitch, Luna comes up and she's got the iconic lion hat. I love the lion hat.
She made that, right?
She made it, and then she said she also wanted it to be eating a serpent, but she didn't have enough time.
She's a talented individual.
I like Luna. She's quirky.
To say the least, quirky, yeah.
But I love the school spirit. Go team
Well,
spirit.
she's not the only one that has created some clothing for these Quidditch matches.
Ooh, nice transition.
Thank you. The The Slytherins have devised a badge that says, if you've heard our break sound before, Weasley is our king. Silver badge, I think, right? Silver badge with Weasley is our king on it. Hermione grabs Harry the morning of the match and was like, don't let him see this badge. And he's like, what are you talking about? Finally sees it and is like, oh no, like this could be bad.
I love that his reaction is like, he knows it's not going to be good.
This cannot be a good thing. We get the Quidditch update from Angelina Johnson that they've had some turnover on their roster, which I don't know how it's taken this long to figure out that there's turnover on the Slytherin Quidditch roster.
Were they not able to... So Snape had been booking the Slytherin, or the Quidditch pitch for
Constantly.
Slytherin so much that no one was able to go out there. Were they not able to just get a pair of binoculars from like the astronomy tower and just peek on like, scout? Why are you not scouting the opposition?
Doesn't Harry have a pair of omnioculars? Like he could get like formation details. He can get like reverse their like he can get the whole scouting report.
You would think so.
I feel like this is the flaw in their Quidditch. Although would that be illegal if you're like videotaping their practice with the omnioculars?
I mean, it's probably going to be illegal if you're videotaping it, but like, can he not just see who walks to the pitch?
I mean, you should be
like they should, or like get like a first-year student to like post up somewhere and be like, who is it? You know?
Okay, so this leads me to Slytherin Quidditch strategy, because obviously we're hearing all of this from Harry's point of view.
Yeah.
So Harry's getting scouting reports from Angelina. We're hearing what Ron is doing to try to get better. We know Fred and George. We know the Gryffindor tactics at this point because we're with them in practice.
Yeah.
What do you think the Slytherins are doing in their practices to prepare for Gryffindor? Do you think they're actually forming like, hey, we can maybe knock Angelina Johnson off her game if we do this type of defensive strategy? Hey, or do you think it's like literally, we can't hang with them, so what we need to do is knock Harry off his broom. By all means, knock him off his broom, get him out this game, and then maybe we can hang until Draco catches the snitch.
I get the impression that it's closer to B, that I don't know that they're willing to acknowledge that they're not as strategic with gameplay as Gryffindor might be.
That's exactly what I wanted to get to.
I think that the way that they might look at it is they would say, well, we've got size and we've got strength, so we're going to just decimate them using that. And I think that they are correct in that it is one of their strengths, but I think that they're not, I would imagine that they're not able to see just how disparate that strategy is versus something where, like, you know, if they're playing Ravenclaw or with playing Gryffindor, where they're coming together and they're trying to figure out like the different dynamics and stuff. I think Slytherin is going into it with a little bit more of like an enforcer mentality in hockey, where it's like, you know, we've got the big guys, we're gonna crush them, instead of trying to do the smaller speed approach kind of.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you this question, because from the Gryffindor's point of view, they're essentially saying, well, Montague's an idiot. Well, Warrington's an idiot.
Yeah.
Well, Crabbe and Goyle, we know are idiots.
Yeah, they're all idiots.
That's essentially Gryffindor's like whole plan here is like, well, they're kind of just dumb. They're big, they're brawny, and they're dumb.
Yeah.
They don't have actual like Quidditch skill.
Yeah.
Like we can outskill them here or there. Which, as we see later in the match, maybe that's not entirely accurate.
Yeah.
And maybe you should have been looking a little bit more critically at yourselves and them and being more pragmatic.
Yeah.
And my question to you is, do you think Slytherin is at all pragmatic about this? Being like, or at least Montague as a captain is like, okay, look, Harry's a better seeker than Draco. We need to figure out a way to counter that. Or Angelina Johnson's a better chaser than Warrington. Or the Weasley twins are better beaters than Crabbe and... Like, do you think they're like, at least Montague, maybe not openly?
I think the key thing there would be, it's possible the Montague, and because I feel like we have seen instances where Montague has had some level of intelligence, like he's not, I don't think, meant to be a buffoon like the others.
I don't think he's not Crabbe and Goyle.
Right.
He's not Crabbe and Goyle, but I don't think he's Draco's sense of cunning either.
Okay.
He's somewhere probably in between.
I don't think
It might
openly in a way, not really, but in a way I almost feel bad for the Slytherin Quidditch team, only because there's no way that Montague doesn't have the power that a captain should have in that situation, because I feel like based on how Draco is and how we've seen his father acting, I have a really hard time believing, because his father gifted those brooms.
Correct. Which put Draco on the team.
Which, great for Draco. Can you really see Draco taking constructive feedback in any sort of capacity? Or, like, it being hinted that, like, Harry is indeed a better... Like, can you actually envision Montague going to Draco and being like, hey, thanks for the brooms, but, like, you kind of suck and, like, you need to do better? Because I think Draco would just have a meltdown and just, like, I feel like now there's this, like, uneven power balance on the team of, like, Draco feels entitled that, you know, he's on it because of these brooms and that he can do a good job.
Do you think Crabbe and Goyle really made the team? Or were they placed on the team?
Right, and again, that it all kind of does hint towards that being a partial, like, that there is a bit of a power struggle.
So Montague's hands are tied. Even if he did have a pragmatic approach, you think his hands are kind of tied?
I think so.
That he can't openly discuss Quidditch strategy because they might not like to hear what he has to say.
I don't think Draco is going to be able to take any sort of criticism in any sort of realm. And I think that immediately then makes it more difficult to manage a team, and it puts your team at a deficit. If you're trying, even if you approach it with like oh yeah, you can take Harry, you still have to work around an obvious weak point on your team, and it's not a minor weak point on your team. It's a position that can very likely win or lose you the game. So you really either have to step up every other area and like really crank that up to kind of compensate for that, or you have to maybe play a little dirty, maybe play a little rough, maybe hope that the other team gets injured in some form, which is a really terrible strategy to have. But if you're looking to win a game and you're kind of handcuffed with what you can do, like...
So let me further question you on... Do you think it's because we're dealing with Draco, Crabbe, and Goyle specifically? Or do you think this is a Slytherin problem as a whole? Do you think it's individual or like systemic throughout the house?
Have we seen anyone else from Slytherin be as sensitive as Draco? Because I can't think of anyone, and I almost kind of feel like it could very well be a Slytherin problem, but I think it's worse with Draco.
Okay. I guess it would almost speak to a sense of, dare I say, insecurity amongst them?
On the Slytherin's part?
Yes.
Like as a whole?
Because they can't take an honest critique.
So that's
or
the
sensitivity.
thing.
Maybe sensitivity is a better word. A sense of increased sensitivity toward criticism.
That's what I'm intrigued by, though, because it doesn't... granted, we don't see a lot of Slytherins.
Well, that's a problem in itself.
Well, I could not agree more. They are able to unite as a house, you know, and come together against Gryffindor frequently.
For better or worse, they do unite as a house, yes.
That's one, we were joking around before we started recording, and I said the one positive thing I could say about Slytherin was that they do have house spirit.
That they do.
Which I find kind of interesting, because if we're going to go on the assumption that they're insecure with their positions or they're entitled to a degree, I would almost feel like there should be a lot of infighting. I feel like there should be a lot of people in Slytherin being like, well, he's a shitty seeker and I could do it better, or he's a terrible beater and I could do it better. Like, that there would be more of a intra-house competitiveness to prove yourself by being the best on the Quidditch team, or something to that degree. But we don't really see a lot
fallout from it.
We don't see anything from it.
So, and I think that's a great point to bring up, because we're getting a Gryffindor perspective 100% of the time.
Yes.
And they clearly have a biased view towards Slytherins, how Slytherins are,
Yeah.
what they're all about.
Yeah.
I mean, we're told from the jump that there's no dark wizard or witch that, whatever.
Yeah.
It's come out of Slytherin. So we're already in a mind frame about Slytherin.
Yes.
Is that fair? Because they're, like I just brought up about Montague, it's like, maybe he is pragmatic, and maybe he's like, no. Harry's a really good seeker. We need to figure that out. Say what you want about the kid. He can fly. So how do we combat that?
Yeah.
Maybe he can't say that out loud because then he'd be shouted down from all of, at least his teammates.
Yeah.
Or other people in Slytherin. There's so much to the inner dynamics at play there
Yes.
that I think is fascinating.
It is. It really is. And it's an honest shame that we don't have more insight and more perspective into the other goings-on of the Slytherin house. Because it does paint a very unfinished picture of...
Well, I think you said it really well when you said that by all of the views that we get from Gryffindor about Slytherin, there should be much more infighting, much more competitiveness, much more drama, and we don't see it.
We never hear about...
And that's not to say that there isn't.
I'm sure that there...
But I'm sure there is in
but
all four of the houses. I'm sure there's drama and stuff in Hufflepuff.
But it's never it's never shown as a focal point of Slytherin. It's never shown that they're, when they're in classrooms together, that they're, sabotaging each other or
trying to one-up each other to get...
Yeah. It's they do present a united front.
I think that's an important note to take.
It's interesting.
So, speaking of Slytherins being on a united front, these badges, they're just a piece of the puzzle. They're the visual piece. They're not the audible piece. Because as the match starts, I will read you parts of this wonderful, wonderful song. Weasley cannot save a thing. He cannot block a single ring. That's why the Slytherins all sing, Weasley is our king. Weasley was born in a bin. He always lets the quaffle in. Weasley will make sure we win. Weasley is our king.
Beautiful, beautiful.
You're welcome.
Move to tears.
So we do find out that the songwriter is Draco.
Yes.
Draco wrote these provocative lyrics, I guess, about Ron.
Conducted by Pansy Parkinson.
Was born in a bin. That seems aggressive.
Is that, okay, dumb question, garbage bin? Or...
Yeah, I would assume, yeah.
Okay. Because every time I read that, I'm always
bin.
like, that's just, it's such a cringe lyric.
Yep.
Do better, Draco.
Well, he mentions that he struggled to rhyme with ugly and fat, which, there's a lot of different words that can rhyme with that. And,
he's really not a good songwriter. He's also not a good seeker.
Hey. Honestly, I don't think he actually tried to make those lyrics. I think he just wrote this and was fine and just wanted to throw out the insults later, afterwards.
I think he wrote this in about 5 minutes.
I mean, Jen, you specifically very much know how much I care about actual rhyming.
Yes.
Of all people.
Very much.
You know that.
Yes.
She may or may not have gotten me a shirt about it for my birthday. But, yeah, I don't think he actually ever intended to write those rhymes. I think he just wanted to throw those insults later.
No, 100%. He's just, low blow after low blow. That's his thing.
Yeah. He clearly hit a chord with the Slytherins because they were loving this.
They were all on board with it. Again, unity.
And to our point about, maybe the Gryffindors should have taken Slytherin a little bit more seriously. Slytherin jumps out to like a 40-10 lead.
Yeah, they actually do really well.
Legitimately.
Yeah.
Not dirty play either. They just outplayed them.
Yeah.
40-10.
No, I know that. They actually had a really good start.
So maybe Gryffindor should have been a little bit more like, oh yeah, Crabbe and Goyle are dumb, ha ha. Oh no, wait, they are still a team that's practiced and they're there, so you might as well treat them seriously.
Maybe you shouldn't wait until the morning of to finish your scouting report.
Yeah, that seems poor on their part.
Yeah.
If you're just going on hearsay, literally Angelina Johnson is like, do you know anything about him? The morning of the match.
Yeah, that, again, not great oppositional research.
Yeah, I think Ron's going to get the blame for the poor start here, 40-10. I might put this on Angelina Johnson.
So this is something that reading this chapter I just kept thinking of the entire time, because I feel for Ron, and it's something that I wish I had really internalized a little bit more when I was younger. But like, when you're on a team sport and you make a mistake, it's very, very rare that your mistake is the reason that you lose. Like, there are usually a bunch of other contributing factors as to how you got in this place in the
Jen,
first place.
no one puts context to things.
But I love context.
It helps create a fuller picture, but who wants that? You read the snappy headline and just make your judgment.
Everyone wants the hot takes.
Come on,
no
Jen.
one wants the context. No, but I mean, I feel bad for Ron, obviously, but also like what you were saying, absolutely, 100%. She failed the team by not getting a more complete scouting report, or by not doing it sooner, or by not doing more research on, that's one aspect of why they performed poorly.
She got caught up in it's a big rivalry.
Yep.
It's a big deal. But it doesn't seem like she did the homework to make this happen. So
you can put some of it on Ron, like he didn't make those saves, but also some of it has to go to Angelina. They were not prepared going into this.
Yeah, I completely agree. They get out to the 40-10 lead, and it's not looking great. Slytherin's in full song. Harry miraculously spots the snitch after mistakenly looking at, I think, Montague's wristwatch.
Yes. And also losing his attention in the middle of the match for a solid minute.
Yeah, not great on his part.
No, a rare lapse in his concentration, but also another thing of if Draco had caught the snitch.
Now it's Harry's fault.
Right, it wouldn't have just been Ron's.
Ron's 40 points that he let up means nothing because you just gave up 150, so
Wasn't a good look for Harry.
Not a good look for Harry. I'm just throwing this out there. Do you think Montague wore a gold wristwatch just, throw off some game?
I didn't think of that, but that makes a lot of sense, and I actually kind of like it.
It's like not illegal, but little gamesmanship.
Yeah. I kind of like it.
I'd be calling up Draco's dad and be like, hey, can you just could you set us up with all gold wristwatches just to throw Harry off a little bit? Okay, great.
Now I wonder.
Can you give our chasers too? Like one for each arm?
I wonder though to what extent that would also screw up your own seeker.
Presumably, well, yeah, it would mess with you because you see like a glint of gold out of the corner of your eye, and
if
at least
everyone's
look.
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'll believe that he did it intentionally, and I kind of like it.
I mean, if Angelina Johnson was really on her game, she'd notice in the hallways, why are they all wearing gold wristwatches? But oh well. Anyway. So Harry does end up getting the snitch, but that's not the end of the events, because Crabbe ends up sending a bludger his way immediately after the snitch is caught.
Yep.
Cracks him in the back, sends him off flying off of his broom, which was only about 5 or 6 feet off the ground. It's still not great, especially if you land a certain way. But Harry's able to get up and recover from himself. But that ignites a whole thing, because Fred and George immediately come to his aid, and that's when Draco starts flinging taunt after taunt after taunt.
Yep.
And I guess this is more the part, the Slytherin singing, and then this aftermath is where I'm going to contradict myself from earlier.
Ooh, okay.
Where I was talking about how golf and crowds, not my thing. Like, I'm solo and I'm great, and then you add 2 people come in and I'm like, now I can't hit the ball.
Yeah.
I'll switch sports because that's still accurate for golf.
Yeah.
But switch sports to basketball,
okay,
where I'm a little bit more confident in myself.
Okay.
Crowds, like that singing, would have turned me into Michael Jordan.
Really?
Like, if I was Ron in that sense, and I was getting all of that, I'd be like, oh yeah, watch me. Watch me.
Okay.
And then I would have amped my game up a notch. That sets me on another level up. It doesn't knock me down.
Okay.
So I'm going to contradict myself. You just switch the sport. But I guess that's a level of confidence, because I'm confident in myself and my basketball skills, not so much golf. And then here in this fight, when Draco's taunting me, Fred and George, Ron's already left. I mean, he is bolted.
He booked it. He's out.
And Fred and George are just hearing this, and they're getting hyped. and they're getting like angry at Draco. I don't get that. I'm like, dude, I just beat you. Like, get out of here. Like that would be my reaction to it.
I spent the entire rest of this chapter reading this, not understanding why they were, because Harry even makes a comment about, like, even through all of this, Draco was still smirking.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you not see through this? Like, how do you not go into this? How are you not mentally prepared enough to go into this match to say to yourself, okay, I have a lot of things going on at school. I know that Slytherin is going to try to upset me. I know that Draco's going to try to upset me, and they're going to try to get into my head. And I know Umbridge is out to get me, and I don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize anything because I don't want to deal with Umbridge. I don't want to deal with Draco. I don't want to deal with Slytherin. So I know going into this match, it's going to be heated, and I have to walk away. Zero mental preparation. Absolutely nothing. Angelina doesn't touch on it. He never touches on it. He's just concerned about getting Ron out there because Ron's feeling sick, and then immediately gets swept up in the most obvious...
it's nothing you haven't heard before.
Right. It's nothing you haven't heard before. You should have known this was coming. You've reacted to this in the past and gotten into trouble for sparring with Draco. This is nothing new. Why are you engaging with him? Why are you still standing there? The minute that you got, who cares that you got a bludger in the back? Get up and walk out.
Yep.
That's it. It blows my mind that he is still standing around entertaining Draco. It blows my mind that Fred and George are entertaining Draco. You know that this is how he is. You know that this is what's going to happen with rivalry. It's not the first time it's happened.
And
leave it.
I know some people will say it's the heat of the moment. You're coming off of a intense rivalry match. You're already geared up to 10 already just to participate in the match. So you're already on like the edge. And I understand that, I do, but now that the match is over and you've won.
You won.
Like, I can get it. If Gryffindor loses and now he's picking at you,
100%.
I would be more inclined to enter that fight having lost the match. Having won the match, I'm like, dude, say what you want, man. You're 0-1.
Right.
You're done.
You just lost. I just beat you.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Get out of here. I'm out.
You can talk whatever you want. I won.
We're going to go celebrate. We're going to have a couple of butterbeers in the common room.
Yeah.
It's going to be a party, man.
Yeah.
It's all good.
My confidence is through the roof at this point. Why am I even entertaining you?
Right.
You know?
Right.
All of this is just, I don't understand what he's thinking when he goes into this.
So all of that fallout, because we get George and Harry specifically going to town on Draco, like just beating the literal like snot out of this kid.
Harry is still holding the snitch while he's punching Draco.
It ends up getting broken up by Madam Hooch, who uses a curse on the kids, who actually uses impedimenta on them.
I love it.
Blasts them away. And sends them to McGonagall's office. And she is furious. Rips her Gryffindor scarf and throws it on the ground.
Yep.
And she's just like, what in the world? I think she's actually more upset that they even did Muggle fighting instead of just cursing him. I think maybe they would have been better off.
Next time, just do a bad bogey hex.
I guess. Or the eyebrow curse. Bring that one back.
He can't taunt you if he can't see you.
Do you think if they had transfigured him into a ferret, she might have liked that? Because at least they used transfiguration. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Now I just see McGonagall being like, I'm really conflicted.
I will give you an A on your next test, but no, you can't do that. No, but she's rightly furious because she's like, you know this is going to... I don't care what that kid could have said to you. Like everything you just said. Everything Jenn just said of, you know it's coming, you've heard it before, what did you expect? They just lost.
Yep.
They're trying to goat you.
Yeah.
So...
Oh yeah, she does explicitly say that.
Yeah. So it's like, she ends up giving them, I think, a week's worth of detentions.
Yep.
And as soon as that happens, you hear the... I could just hear it in my head as I read the words, that hem bit. Yeah. And I think it's now created, like that description of McGonagall of just tensing up immediately and like going, oh no.
Yep.
I think that's everybody's reaction as soon as you read those words. And I'm just going to say it right now, the audacity that she has to walk into the room at that moment when McGonagall's already not in a great mood
Yes.
and be like, do you need help?
This was, so I reread this book, I don't know, a couple months ago, something like that, and then I reread the chapters
Sure.
right before I come on. So it's been a few months since I've reread the book in totality, and I was reading this chapter and I was like, man, I'm really enjoying this, and then I got to this part and like my whole body just tensed up, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is why I don't like this.
I think everybody can relate to this.
Yeah.
I think everybody can relate to you doing your job
Yep.
and doing your job well.
Yep.
You're not making a mistake at the time.
Nope.
You're actually doing your job appropriately. And then someone who is not in this situation puts themselves in this situation, and you're like, I'm sorry, I didn't ask
Yes.
for your help. If you wouldn't mind walking your butt out the door and letting me handle this. I think most people can relate to that feeling, and it's not a good one.
No,
You're
it's
immediately
not.
upset.
I'm still holding a grudge from like 6 years ago with a similar situation, so.
It leads to Educational Decree number 25.
Lovely.
The High Inquisitor will have supreme authority over all punishments, sanctions, and removal of privileges, as well as the power to alter any said punishments, sanctions, and removal of privileges that are brought forth by other staff members.
Does the minister not see how ridiculous this is? Like, I get that he's giving her the title, but...
You're just making
We're
her
on
essentially
decree-
the headmistress.
Right, we're on Decree 25. Do you not see how completely ridiculous all of this is?
It's an absurd level of control, because now you've just negated pretty much everybody else at the school,
Yes.
which is absurd.
Yes.
Now you're just literally a ministry-run school. And she specifically cites how McGonagall went over her head to keep the Gryffindor team alive anyway.
Yes. Which was fair, and she should have. This just completely negates
Correct.
anything the staff could do.
And then she goes one step further and says Harry, George, and Fred will all be banned from Quidditch for life, which I have some thoughts on, and I want to get your thoughts in the spoiler section because we're running long on the non-spoilers, so we'll get to those later.
Sounds good.
The brooms were confiscated.
That's excessive.
That all of this is
That's
excessive.
fair.
Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up very quickly because we're running short on time. But she lays down those. All three, McGonagall, George, and Harry, are just stunned. They don't even really have a comeback to this. They're just like, wait, what? Can't she do that? I guess she can do that? Okay. Ron's MIA. Like, we haven't seen him since the match. And he comes in very, very late to the common room, and he just says he's been out walking. He doesn't know all of the fallout from after this match.
Covered in snow.
Covered in snow. We find out that despite Harry, George, and Fred being banned for life, Crabbe only got lines
That's fair.
for hitting Harry after the match, which seems totally fair and appropriate. And I wonder if those lines are going to be etched into his skin forever and ever. I highly doubt it. So, and we get the bombshell of, oh, by the way, Hagrid's back.
Yay!
And by the way, that's not even me cutting that short. That's literally all we get is,
Yep.
Hagrid's back.
Yay!
End scene. And we'll end scene and be back with the spoiler section, a little bit more Quidditch talk, and whatever other spoilers we can come up with. We'll be right back. So we're back with the spoiler section after appropriately, Weasley is our king, as the break sound. So we wanted to get right back into some of that Quidditch fallout. And the idea of the punishments doled out here by Umbridge late in the chapter. And she goes straight to banned for life.
It's pretty extreme.
To say the least. I mean, going to a straight life ban for a fight.
It's like a 4-game season. Couldn't she
Right.
just ban them for the year? I mean,
Which would still be excessive.
right.
Like, I think banning them for the next match is easily acceptable.
Yes.
And should have been done.
Yes.
Because you still can't do that.
I think you also have to ban Crabbe for the next match as well.
Agreed. I agree. Mainly just because he instigated. Forget the danger in which he
Yeah.
instigated with, but sure.
Also, give Malfoy lines.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Malfoy gets the detentions.
Yeah.
Not a ban.
Yeah.
Crabbe should be banned for a game, and then the 2 Weasleys and Harry should be banned for... Well,
Fred should get lines.
You're right. Fred should get lines. George and Harry should be suspended for...
If it's physical, they get suspended for a game. If it's not physical, they get lines.
I wouldn't even quibble with you if you said Harry and George get 2 matches. I wouldn't even quibble with you that much. I'd be like, I can see that.
Yeah.
A year might be a touch
Yeah.
much. The rest of the season might be much. And then a lifetime ban is just, honestly, it's almost hilariously ridiculous.
It's not enforceable.
It's absurd on every level.
Yes.
So my thought reading this is, in world, not even talking about the real sports world and how suspensions work for fights and stuff like that, which, for the record, if a member of the football team that I work for threw a punch, landed a fight, whatever, I believe you get a 1-game suspension. And then if you do it twice and get suspended for it twice, then you have to miss the entire year. That's a real world example. Going back to in-world, there has to be, you're telling me at the Quidditch World Cup there wasn't a fight? And there wasn't some sanction or some motion was made at that point that you could base this off of? Or professional Quidditch leagues, there's not a scuffle that happens and then they have rules in place for suspensions that you can't base this off of? Again, not including that this is a whole separate private institution that can pretty much do whatever they want, which I guess is the whole point of the ministry interfering. But any way you cut it, it's too much.
It's not based in reality.
Yeah.
It's not based on any sort of regulation. Typically, there's some sort of kind of like what you were saying, and then in professional sports too, they have tiered suspensions where if it's your first time you get X, and then each subsequent time you get more. It's not something like that. She just goes immediately to the extreme, which wouldn't work in the real world because of some of the ways that things are structured with the players union and stuff, where you can't just arbitrarily
you should be able to appeal the suspension.
Right, you should be able to appeal it. You should be able to go to have other people review the decision. It shouldn't just be coming from a single person. Also, for life, it kind of makes me laugh because it's so ridiculous in the sense that, okay, so they're banned from playing Quidditch. Let's humor her and say for Hogwarts. If Harry practices somehow in the summer, whatever, goes to Quidditch camp, I don't know, graduates Hogwarts, decides to try out for a professional Quidditch team, he's not banned from that. That's not enforceable.
Okay, so you're taking it as literally this is a ministry put down, Harry cannot play Quidditch ever again.
She didn't say for Hogwarts. She said for life.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't read it that way. Okay. I read it as Hogwarts specifically. Okay. He won't be able to play ever again for Hogwarts, for the school.
Yeah.
But I will say I can see your angle, since it's a ministry put down thing of anything in Britain.
Yeah.
He cannot play, period.
Yeah.
In Britain.
Yeah.
So you'd have to go internationally to play, outside of their jurisdiction.
Yes. But I just can't imagine that it would ever get to that level because he threw a punch in high school.
Right.
That makes it just makes no sense. I did read it like that. I did read it as you're banned from life because I'm a ministry official and I can do whatever.
I can see you getting that, yeah.
And I'm I get it for Hogwarts. There's no way 4 years from now.
That's what I'm saying.
You're going to try out for a team, and they're going to be like, oh no, you threw a punch and the ministry's banned you. You're Harry Potter, but we're going to ban you.
Not that we haven't gone too far into this rabbit hole already.
That's fine.
But I'm going to go further.
Perfect.
This is why we need wizarding lawyers. Do you think Harry could hire one and sue that this is...
He absolutely should.
Excessive punishment? Above and beyond the law?
I think you would make a good case for it. Well, I don't know why there aren't lawyers in the wizarding world.
Clearly we didn't see them in the hearing that he was at earlier.
Right.
Dumbledore acted as such.
Yes.
So would Dumbledore be able to act as his lawyer? First of all, he should be able to appeal.
Yes.
And the appeal should be to the headmaster of Hogwarts first.
Yes.
Which he would then maybe, 1 game, you're fine.
Yeah.
Oh, then we come back with Educational Decree number 26. And now Umbridge can usurp that as well.
We'll just keep usurping people.
And then just, and it just rolls down a hill. Yeah. But, I don't think he's appealing to Fudge. And Fudge is like, boys will be boys kind of thing. I think he's going to be like, no, you're done.
Yeah. No, I feel like Fudge would have Umbridge's back.
Also, can we just point out the fact that I just said appeal to Fudge, and Fudge would be like, no. He's the Minister of Magic. Why is he even putting his, 2 cents into a Quidditch game of 15-year-olds?
Because this whole thing is stupid.
You don't have real wizarding business to take care of in the world. You're concerning yourself with a 15-year-old boy's Quidditch.
He is so concerned about Albus Dumbledore taking his position that he has to ban Harry from Quidditch for life.
It's stunning.
It's so stupid.
You have nothing else to do with your life. That's us getting on our soapbox about.
Yes.
Do you have anything else?
Sports suspensions work, people.
No, it is not. Do you have anything else on the Quidditch before we transition?
I have 2 points to make. Number 1, this is another reason why Snape is not suited to be a teacher, because he's letting people jinx away in the hallway. Bad teacher.
Yeah, if Angelina Johnson had done this to Warrington, she gets detention for a week. She misses the match.
No.
He would probably see to it that she misses the match.
100%. Also, it was a bit unsportsmanlike to book the Quidditch pitch for every day in a row for 8 weeks.
And not let them have it.
Yeah. But, he's...
Do you think McGonagall and Snape had a Severus? Can you some non-PG words in the teacher's lounge?
How do you think Snape acts with the other teachers in the teacher's lounge? Because he's a total jerk to all of the students. Don't they also have a bet going on at one point?
Oh yeah, they always have side bets.
So they have to be some level of amicable.
Oh no. To your point, I fully believe they are. All shenanigans aside, I feel like Snape does very much respect Minerva,
Okay.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he would ever throw shade on Flitwick or Sprout, just because I think he respects their abilities.
He doesn't strike me as a small talk guy, but then how do you get
Well,
to
that's
the point
true.
of
I'll give you that.
But then how do you get to the point of making bets with the guy? You have to have some sort of
Doesn't mean he's not competitive.
That's fair.
I think he's
is.
he's definitely competitive, and I do think he wants to get one up on McGonagall, because I think he does respect her quite a lot.
Yeah.
Because again, she taught him.
Yeah.
And they obviously they're the heads of house of 2 rivals. But yeah, I think it's a much more amicable teacher's lounge than you might
Then I might
assume.
imagine, based on his demeanor.
But that being said, I would love to see him booking the Quidditch pitch so much. McGonagall go walking into that teacher's lounge and being like, "What in the world are you doing?"
What is wrong with you?
And then just Flitwick and Sprout just scoot their chairs back a little bit, and they're like, "Ooh, I don't want to get in this."
Do you think Snape, when he's filling out the reservation for the pitch, is smiling to himself, this is gonna really get McGonagall?
Probably, yeah. I'm gonna one up McGonagall right here.
Wonder how early he had to get to the sign-up sheet.
He strikes me as the guy that's got nothing really going on for him at this point, so he's probably I'll wake up early and get this done.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. And then my other point, real quick before we get into the DA stuff, is, hey, what a shocker, Slytherin is the evil house, and full of evil people, and all they do is evil. Yay.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it in the non-spoiler about how we're getting all of these insights through Gryffindor's eyes, and it's...
Can one of them be nice? Can one of them be flattering?
By sheer odds and probability, there has to be. But then, okay, this is a real question that we haven't gotten into yet. So there probably is. There probably is some Slytherins that are either genuinely nice and kind, or at the very least, just non-committal and just
I'll
on
take
everything.
neutral.
Just completely neutral.
Yeah.
And they just don't care one way or the other. And that's fine. But real question here, peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else in their house, or at least a majority in their house might feel a certain way about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like, if I don't at least show that I'm in agreement, I am now ostracized. And being ostracized is it's like National Geographic in the wild. If you're left on your own out of a herd, you're picked off real easy. you need to be part of that herd, even though you might not wholeheartedly agree with said herd.
Do you know what also contributes to feelings of isolation? When all of the other houses make snap decisions about your house and ostracize you based on that.
Fair, but at least you're still in a group and not like...
But the whole stereotype is still being perpetuated, because if you're in disagreement with the people who are more outspoken, like the Dracos and whomever else in Slytherin, if you don't agree with them, but the whole rest of the school thinks you're evil, then you really don't have anyone. But if the rest of the school maybe wasn't so stuck on the fact that, like, oh my god, Slytherin is so super evil, maybe you could make friends with someone in Hufflepuff. Maybe you could have a study buddy in Ravenclaw. Maybe you could go to Honeydukes with Gryffindor. Like, you can still technically socialize with the other house. It would make your sleeping arrangements a little bit awkward, but like you would at least not be alone. But right now, the way that it exists, if that is how it's set up, is it's either you bow to what Draco and all his beliefs are, which is maybe a majority, or maybe just a very vocal minority in the Slytherin house,
and everybody's just too afraid to actually speak their...
Yeah, and then everyone else just ostracizes you. So it's like you're in a terrible position.
I'll also throw this out at you. So in your junior high school years, you're thinking of some of your classmates certain ways. Mm-hmm. You're like, well, I don't really like that kid. I don't get along with him. He said some mean things to me, blah, 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 blah. And that's how you think of that kid for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And then you come back around as you're now in your late 20s, your 30s, and you see that person again, and they're a completely different person. They're a very nice guy that's, got a job, got a family, got whatever, and is just a completely different person than he was, shockingly, 15 years ago. Yeah. Because people grow and develop and change. So my question there, relating it back to Harry Potter, is the houses matter now, because that's what you're being fed 24/7 now. Yeah. But once you leave the walls of Hogwarts and you leave the common rooms of Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Slytherin, and you're just living in a house, you're just living in a flat, and you go into the ministry or you go into, Hogsmeade for your round of work for the day, and you're just a person. Does that, are you allowed to shift out and just be you and not have to be this stigma of, you're a Slytherin, so I know how you are, or you're a Gryffindor, so I'm expecting this? Do you know what I mean?
Why do you even need to have a herd mentality? And I'm gonna
because you're in high school, it's peer pressure.
But that's okay. So thank you for bringing that up. One of the things that I really liked about my high school, which we can ask Elizabeth if she agrees with me on this, although I feel like I have talked to her about this and I think that she does, but maybe I'm incorrect with this. But one of the things that I really liked about high school is you have the stereotypical American portrayal of high school on all different forms of media, and it's very much like, these are the popular girls, and then these are the jocks. And then, you've got the misfit kids, and then you've got the nerds, and whenever you see it portrayed, I feel in some sort of media, they do cluster it. They do cluster it into if you're this personality type, you're a popular girl, and if you're this personality type, you're this. And one of the things that I really liked about my high school experience, groups in high school seemed fairly fluid. So yeah, I don't understand why you can't just take that and apply it to I get that they're in a house mentality. I get that that's forced on them much more than my experience, where I didn't live at my high school. I didn't dorm at my high school. Sure. So obviously it's a very different kettle
I think
of
you
fish.
Answered your own question.
Of the dorming?
No, of your whole thing, because you started with fictional. You get these clustered groups, like a Mean Girls situation, where it's just you get the emo group, you get the art group, you get the jock group, you get the popular girl group, or whatever. And in real life, it doesn't really work that way. Yeah. I agree. My high school experience, yes, there were quote unquote cliques. Yeah. But I never felt like I couldn't go to a different lunch table and just talk to somebody. Yeah. I could float between lunch tables or whatever and interact with whoever I wanted, because it was relatively fluid. They were there, but it's not because we're here, you're not. Exactly.
Why do they have to make it into this caricature where, especially when I feel like it's a caricature that, to me, it feels a little bit harmful, because it feels like these people are evil. It's not those are the nerds and they like to study a lot. these people are evil and they're racist and they're going to grow up and try to murder you. And it's like, this feels pretty not great, especially when you're building a franchise where it's a quarter of the houses and all of your merchandise is centered around being like, what house are you in? Because I'm still very salty about the fact that I'm sorted into Slytherin, and I've said it before, I have zero qualms about the traits that I have that make me a Slytherin. I have massive problems with the fact that everywhere it's the evil house.
Okay. You don't have to be pigeonholed as you're a Slytherin forever.
Yes.
You could be like, I'm an adult, I'm an individual. Hi.
I
have complicated thoughts and feelings.
I'm 100% on board with that.
Yeah.
And I love that mentality, and I think that's a good way of looking at it when it comes to, you know, the progression of characters too, and the fact that we are looking at people in high school. My sole complaint still revolves around, where do we see that?
Oh, no, I agree with you.
Like,
no, I get what you're saying with that, yes. It would have been nice to get more of a nuanced approach to it. I will grant you, and you're 100% right, in that she does a poor job with that, because all of our characters, whether because they need therapy and therapy doesn't exist, but they never never break those bonds.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know people that I went to like 6th and 7th grade with, who I did not like. I very much did not like them. And I have met them later in life again.
Yeah.
And they come up to me like, Dan, how you doing? We're like, how's life? How's everything going? Like, and they're like, oh, this is actually like genuine? Wow, okay. And then we actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
And things are different because guess what? We've grown
people
and
change.
matured.
Yeah.
And we've changed.
Mm-hmm.
How you are at 13 is not how you are when you're 33. Hopefully. That's not how life should work.
Right.
So, but here in this Harry Potter world, it kind of works that way.
It does
where
work
what you
that
were like
way.
at 13 apparently is how you're like in your 30s and 40s.
You do not mature.
Which is unfortunate for these characters, that they're not allowed to get past those childish disagreements.
Yes.
Snape is a different person than he was when he was at Hogwarts. So is Sirius.
Yeah.
So was James. So like James had a family. Like he maybe wasn't what he was. Lupin is different. It's a shame that we weren't really allowed to dig into those nuances.
Yes.
But I guess it works for you and I because we get to dig into them here on Hogwarts, a podcast.
We get to talk about it. Yay! We haven't even touched on my DA thing. So continuing with this whole house talk, now that I'm rereading these chapters for this podcast, and now that I'm attempting to fully reconcile the Slytherin in me, I'm starting to notice a lot more of the house nuances that get drawn up a little bit. And one of the good examples I had from earlier was Hermione acknowledging that she could have been a Ravenclaw, and then immediately following up with, she says something that's very much in a leadership role, which is just immediately demonstrative of her being in Gryffindor.
Sure.
So it's a very nice parallel that she's got of, she is Ravenclaw, she is Gryffindor, kind of two sides to a coin. Another thing that we kind of touched on was, McGonagall and Snape are very deeply into this rivalry, and they both have that very strong desire to win, which is kind of, again, two sides to a coin of Slytherin and Gryffindor, where they are both very determined.
Sure.
And I think competitive, more, probably more so than the other houses. So again, it's a nice kind of comparison, because McGonagall expresses it in a much more healthy way than Snape, who's just letting people run rampant to try to give himself the upper hand. They're both trying to manipulate the scenario by giving themselves the upper hand. McGonagall by freeing up time for people, Snape by letting people jinx people, but one of them is a little bit less malicious than the other.
Sure.
But it's interesting to see how they are still, so like it's a thread that they share, even though they're in different houses. So one of the things that I thought of while I was reading this, and I was reading about the Dumbledore's army, is we're presented with this as we're supposed to root for Dumbledore's army. We're supposed to say, wow, Harry is being really oppressed, and Umbridge is coming in and she's taking all the power. She's making all of these bad decisions, and it's not in the best interest of Harry and his students.
It's abusive.
Yeah. And therefore, we're rooting for Harry and we're rooting for his decisions. So they decide to create Dumbledore's army to practice all these spells that Umbridge is preventing them from doing. So it's framed as something that we're supposed to root for and that we're supposed to intrinsically support Harry and empathize with Harry and say, oh yes, this is needed, this is the right thing, this is the good thing to do. Not that I'm saying that Dumbledore's army is a wrong thing to do, but I feel like the mentality of like making that decision by saying, okay, it's basically we're using it as like a means to an end. We're going to create this club because we want to be informed to go around someone who we feel is oppressing us.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing it with good intent. But I feel like if you told me that the Slytherins were doing something like that, where they were doing something with a means to an end because they felt it was something that was correct, I wouldn't totally be shocked by that.
So if they started their own dark arts club?
Right, because if they felt it was necessary. Because I feel like it kind of showcases a little bit of you have to be cunning in order to create the galleons, to find a meeting place, you have to be clever, you have to be ambitious because you're attempting to learn something that's forbidden. You're kind of checking some Slytherin boxes under the guise of something good.
I think the argument you're making is not so much that the DA is a bad thing. I think you're highlighting that the Slytherin characteristics aren't inherently bad.
Yes.
You can use those characteristics for more valiant purposes.
Yes.
Or positive directions.
And it does feel, I know that they put a lot of emphasis on that Slytherins are evil. We get that. But it does...
Say it again, Jen.
I'm not sure if anyone picked up on that subtlety. But it's just, when I was reading it, I just thought it was, I don't want to say hypocritical, but like, you definitely get the ambitiousness and the cunningness portrayed in a positive light for Gryffindor. It's not considered a defining feature, but it's on full display here. And we're supposed to root for it. And we're supposed to say, oh yeah, it's good that you're being ambitious. It's good that you're being cunning. It's good that you're being clever to set up this DA. Like, you're doing the good thing. And then it kind of feels like the flip side of the coin for that is, well, when it's associated with Slytherin, it's negative. But when it's associated with Gryffindor, it's a positive thing.
We can get more into this when it becomes a major plot point in the next book.
Yep.
But I'm going to throw it at you now, because we do get a Slytherin using the Room of Requirement in a cunning, ambitious way.
Yes.
For a means to an end.
Yeah.
With Draco using the room to fix the vanishing cabinet.
That's a wonderful parallel.
And you can get into the nuts and bolts of why he's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Is he doing it to bring down Dumbledore? Is he doing it to serve Voldy? Is he doing it to break the wizarding world? Because ultimately that's a step towards that.
Yeah.
Or is he doing it because he feels threatened, and he feels like he's backed into a corner that he can't escape, and if he tries, he dies? Is he doing it to save his family, who's now in a really difficult position at that point in time? Lucius has fallen out of favor hard at that point in time. Is he doing it to save himself and his family? Like, just survive.
Yeah.
And do what he has to do. And now he's fixing a vanishing cabinet on his own, which is a very clever fix that no one saw coming.
Yeah.
Dumbledore didn't see that one coming. No one did. He got one up on everybody. So, to your point, now that a Slytherin is using the Room of Requirement for a very morally questionable circumstance, is it, it's not Harry training people to fight in a rebellion. It's just fixing a cabinet, essentially. But it goes down as Harry is a hero and Draco is a villain.
Yes. I think it's in the eye of the beholder.
100%. And we're looking through the eye of
Right.
that
We're looking
beholder.
through one eye.
We're looking through one lens.
One lens of this.
Correct.
But I think, and I think that that's a really good way of putting it for this too, where it is the line between Slytherin and Gryffindor feels very, very thin sometimes.
I agree.
It's in situations like this where I feel really see how thin it is.
Yeah.
Because I think there are arguments, I think there are fewer arguments to be made that the DA is bad, although you could certainly see from like Fudge's perspective.
Oh, it's a threat. It's a blatant threat.
Right. So like it's not 100% good. And then you look at Draco in the next book, and my personal opinion is it's not 100% bad. So it is a very, I love the grayness, and that is one of the things I like about the next book, and I'm really excited to dive into the next book, is I think Draco finally starts to develop some nuance, and I think that's fun to see.
I think it's fun because when you're reading these books more critically, as we are, we've always read them through the eyes of Harry, and we've always felt empathetic towards his cause because you're reading it through his eyes. Everything's unfair to him and everything's against him.
Yep.
And most of that is true. Everything is, a lot is against him.
Yep.
I think what we do on this podcast that's unique is we try to look through other lenses of other characters and see where their point of view actually is.
Yeah.
And in other points of view,
it's not as clear cut.
Harry is arming children to fight whoever.
Yeah.
It doesn't, yes, it's against Voldy and against the Death Eaters, but if the Ministry is standing in his way, do you think Harry's going to think twice about, taking a shot at Umbridge, who's a Ministry official, whether you like her or not, is, that's a threat to the Ministry of Magic, which is your presiding government. Yeah. It's like, that's a threat. Yeah. That's not a great thing. It's essentially treason.
Yeah.
So, treason might be a little harsh, but if you're Fudge, you're starting to look through that treasonous lens of, I'm trying to do what's best for the country, and through his eyes, he's doing that. Whether you agree or disagree with how he's doing it, he's trying to do that.
Fudge is an interesting character because I do strongly disagree with how he's presenting it,
sure.
But I am sympathetic towards him. And
he's in a tough spot.
He is in a very tough spot. And that is kind of also part of this, where it's like he is not a clear-cut, Voldemort is the clear-cut villain here.
Yes.
Unambiguous. Fudge I'm a little bit more sympathetic to because I think he does mean well. I just think he's so A, in his own head, and B, just not able to comprehend that Dumbledore is actually telling him the truth. So I'm a little bit more sympathetic because I think he's trying. It's just not. He's not right. I don't think he's right in what he's doing. I agree with you. He took the wrong approach. 100%.
I don't think he would be a great Minister of Magic if he just jumped on the Dumbledore bandwagon blindly.
That's fair.
Either, because he's got a responsibility beyond just catering to Albus Dumbledore. He does have to think for a whole country and a whole bunch of people.
I'll give you that.
So the correct answer for him would be to skirt somewhere in the middle.
Do your own research, maybe have other
listen to
people
Dumbledore.
Talk to. Yeah.
Have those conversations. Be like, hey, I can't meet you all the way over there.
Yeah.
Maybe do some work.
Yeah.
Present a nice PowerPoint presentation that I can sit for. We can discuss it, but for reasons, I can't fully commit to that just yet.
Yeah.
That's where he should have been.
Yeah, no, that makes total
sense. In the middle of both.
Yeah.
And he just chose the aggressive wrong.
Just going to stick my head in the sand and pretend it's not happening.
Correct. Yeah. Which is the worst thing he can do. But
if I told, and I guess to also maybe try to more succinctly summarize my point, if I told you that a group of students were going against the school's rule to form their own fight club,
it's a problem. It's a
serious Slytherin vibes.
Yeah, not to mention, side note, they're teaching, and I get they've started simple here with like, you know, disarming and like impedimenta and stuff like that, but what if something goes wrong?
Yeah, no.
And what if these go sideways and then one of these kids gets like really badly injured that you can't fit, that Hermione can't fix, and then you're either sending him to Pomfrey or worse, or you're sending a kid to St. Mungo's all of a sudden, and you got to explain how and why this kid got hurt.
Not a great look.
Letting 15-year-olds just do their own thing very rarely ends well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some, but it goes back to like, Lupin's a great guy, and he's a great teacher, and I love Remus Lupin. That Boggart lesson could have gone a certain way.
Yeah.
That could have ended badly.
Yeah.
It didn't. Great. Could have.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's always that other side.
You know, the first rule of Dumbledore's army is don't talk about Dumbledore's army.
I think that is actually the first rule of the DA.
I'm not wrong.
Oh my God.
I said it as a joke, and then I was like, no, wait, I think I actually have a point.
And on the Fight Club reference, we will end it. Do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, I'm done.
This was a loaded full episode. We hope you enjoyed Jen and I going back and forth on a bunch of different topics. Let us know what you guys think by commenting on the episode, letting us know what you think on Twitter. Please like, share the podcast, keep this thing growing. We really appreciate all the comments, all the poll results, which you can get to on Spotify and whichever polls we post on Twitter. We love hearing your thoughts and getting all your feedback. So keep it coming. And if you're so inclined, please support the podcast by clicking that support the podcast link wherever you're getting this. Shoot us a little donation. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy putting these things together. So we appreciate every little bit that helps. Otherwise, we'll keep coming and we'll have another episode next week. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.